Do you think politicians care about our consent?
No way.
Generally not.
Absolutely not.
Right now, no.
I don't think so.
My immediate reaction's no.
Hey everybody, we are in downtown Denver today on the 16th Street Mall, and we are going to talk to people walking by on the street about the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and we're going to introduce the idea of Tabor in their mind through the lens of today's political climate, and that is the lens of consent and the metoo movement. Why is consent important to you on a personal level?
In relationships?
In regards to anything?
In regards to anything. Because you don't have personal freedoms if somebody's taking away your personal freedom by you not consenting to something, if that makes sense.
Because people should have the free will to do what they want to do, or should be able to do things based on their free will and not from coercion. I think it's important for people to have a say in the way their life goes, and on what things happen to them. Usually that's a decision point. If they have control over that, then they can have control over their lives. That's when people are happiest, I think.
Consent is permission, and without that, you're kind of crossing the boundaries, violating either a moral code or a law. It's absolutely necessary.
Do you think this whole consent and permission thing applies to politicians and government?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, yeah. I think that if you're taking something from someone else, then they need to be okay with it as well.
So you would be, what do you think of a law that would require politicians to ask voters first before they raise taxes and debt? And they would ask voters to take more of their money by putting something on the ballot that said, hey, we need to raise some taxes, we're going to take some more of your money, but it's for these things. You get a vote yes or no on it. What do you think about that kind of law?
I'm all for that. I think that, voters should at least get an idea of what they're paying for, and at least get to prepare for more money to be taken.
That seems like a great law. You asked to borrow things.
Does it seem like consent?
Yeah.
Do you know? Have you ever heard of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights? Okay, you're from California, so you wouldn't know. Okay, here in Colorado, we have in our Colorado Constitution the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which says exactly that.
Okay.
You may not. Does it sound like a great law?
It sounds like a great law. Yeah, you asked for those things.
So that already exists in Colorado. So what do you think about that?
Perfect.
+1 for Colorado?
+1 for Colorado. Good job. California, get on board.
Do you think the Taxpayer Bill of Rights has the spirit of consent within it?
No.
Why not?
I think consent is given to the people that we elect when we vote for those people. When in a democratic society, we decide through the ballot that we want somebody to represent us, and we consent to giving that person our voice.
I would have to do a lot of research on it to give a good answer, but my first thought is that if we ask consent for every little thing, like if I think of the number of things that you'd have to raise taxes for is pretty much anything that they would do, I can't imagine an efficient government where they didn't have the freedom to kind of make decisions like on a mass scale.
I just think that what I've mainly heard about Tabor is that when the economy's doing really well, it works well because the government has some surplus money. But when we went through the recession, there was no extra money, so they couldn't save any money.
It's actually the opposite of that. When the economy is booming, then the government's collecting more than population plus inflation. That's why we get the refunds. When there's a recession, they're not collecting more than population plus inflation, so they get it all. So again, Tabor
had to do refunds even when the economy was doing bad.
They only do refunds when they collect more than population plus inflation. So the budget grows every single year, but it grows by population plus inflation.
It makes sense. I think it would be also important to include how that would affect each one individually, because I think when you hear that taxes are going to be raised, people freak out. But if it's going to take an extra $20 a month, like maybe to give people like a scope of what that would actually mean individually, that would be helpful for them to make the right decision on their vote there.
They always do that. Having been in this state for 11 years, if they want some more money from us and they put it on the ballot, they always say, oh, this is only 2 cents on every dollar for every, they always try to break it down like that to sell it to voters. So you're right. There's a lot of projects that the government needs some extra money for, and then they have to do a good job selling it to the people so that they can get a yes vote on that. And so I think in the age of consent, and in the age of Me Too, in the age of asking permission, in the age of trying to get people to respect each other's property and their bodies, that seeing the Taxpayer Bill of Rights in that sense, because that's all it does, is that it's a constitutional protection that says you get the budget, you get population plus inflation growth every year. It can grow every year. The budget grows every year. Don't believe me, it grows every year. But if you want more than that, if you want to take more into our wallets, you got to come to us, make a good case, and then we could say yes or no.
Interesting.
Make a good case. Ask the people, hey, we really need this, and if you make a good case, the people will say yes.
Well, that sounds fine. I don't have a problem with that.
What do you think about this extra level of getting consent? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sorry. I guess this is kind of like a no-brainer for me. I feel like if you want more money from the people, you'd ask them if that's okay, and I would appreciate it if I knew what the money was being used for. And so the X, Y, and Z part would be important to me, not just like, hey, man, can I have $1,000 or $1 million? However much they, take from us. So that would definitely be important to me. And I think that would raise like the respect and understanding between government and people.
As you might imagine, many people we spoke to on the streets of Denver were skeptical about the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. But what we learned over the last couple of days is that if you introduce the concept of Tabor through the lens of consent in today's political climate, people start to get it. And so although they started the conversation skeptical about what Tabor does and what it is, they sort of ended the conversation as Tabor fans.
California, get on board.
There you go. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate it.